guys, 30 to the 3. And 1 minute to go for the start. These drivers will begin to work over there on the backstretch, and they'll try to find a spot that gives them comfort and gives them some speed as we get ready to go with these 100-mile-an-hour rockets about 13 to 14 feet in length as these guys get ready to go. Gathering up over on the backstretch now. Seven of them ready to do battle. They'll have to come around all three of the buoys. That last buoy, as they come up, is called the 500-foot buoy. They have to stay in a straight line. Once they reach that buoy, here they come.
Hold on to your
Sailor
seat,
on
folks.
the inside.
It's that time again. It's
Austin
the PowerMist Power Hour
outside.
with Mr. Ray Rodda. He's only 3 minutes away
Into
from the
that
start,
corner.
just like you used to hear him on the racetrack, folks.
Big
It's 30
wall
to
of water
the
as they
3,
go
and we
through
will
the
be
corner. 30
right
to
there
the
with
3.
you. So get your popcorn, get your drink, sit back and get ready. We're going to make it happen. Ray has been out collecting all the news from around all the tracks, all the weather delays, all the flights, and all the sad news that we have to bring maybe this weekend. But he's got it all in his book, so be prepared because we're about ready to start.
Then 1 minute to go for the start. These drivers will begin to work over there on the backstretch, and they'll try to find a spot that gives them comfort and gives them some speed as we get ready to go with these 100-mile-an-hour rockets about 13 to 14 feet in length as these guys get ready to go. Gathering up over on the backstretch now. Seven of them ready to do battle. They'll have to come around all three of the buoys. That last buoy, as they come up, is called the 500-foot buoy. They have to stay in a straight line. Once they reach that buoy, here they come. Sailor on the inside. Austin Vanover outside. Into that corner. Big wall of water as they go through the corner.
Well, if that don't get you excited, folks, I'm sure our guest tonight will. So hang in there as Ray will be with us shortly. 1 minute to go, folks. 1 minute to the start. Most of you know our host as Mr. Holy Buckets, the voice of hydroplane boat racing, the title series announcer, and long-time boat racer Mr. Ray Rodda. He's going to be here in 30 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, boat racing fans and auto racing fans alike, here's your host, Mr. Holy Buckets himself, Mr. Ray Rodda. Take it away, Ray.
Thank you, Kevin. Welcome, fans, to another PowerMist Power Hour as we kick off another show tonight with our great sponsor, PowerMist Fuels and Additives. If you have a fuel need or additive need, see Rick or Steve Fail, as they run a company nimble enough to meet your needs for standard fuel, but also that special blend that you need to get out front. From methanol that we use in the title series to drag cars to motorcycles, enduros, sprint cars, See the Fails family operation at PowerMist.com to get a look at the standard fuel and additives that they carry, but know that the mad scientists Rick and Steve Fails can blend to your spec. So PowerMist.com, the oldest family-owned fuel and additive supplier in the country. See PowerMist.com for all of your needs. Well, tonight, as Kevin alluded to in the intro, Boat Racing World has a little bit of morning to do, as down at Port Neches, Texas, in the F1 race, young man named Bobby Riggs lost his life, unfortunately, at a race as he and Chris Fairchild collided. Chris happens to be the APBA president, but in that race, they collided, and the race was then called, and no one was declared the winner as far as we know. But we certainly pass our prayers for Bobby's family and pray for Chris for a quick recovery. And we've heard that Chris has already been able to travel home, so we wish him well. Well, over the weekend in the Miami F1 race, Max Verstappen seems to be almost unbeatable, as except maybe some of the things that he does on track. He might defeat himself once in a while, but he started all the way back in the 9th spot, but found himself in victory lane for his 3rd win of the season, with his teammate Perez finishing 2nd, and Fernando Alonso finishing in the 3rd spot. Kind of interesting reading through some of the stories on Miami, as there were quite a bit of negative news coming out with the drivers unhappy with how they were introduced, the food prices, some of the parties they said were not up to snuff, and it just was kind of interesting to see some of the negative news that came out. And of course, they're already being compared to what Las Vegas is going to do in November, as Las Vegas will host the 3rd F1 race here in the United States. And it's been about 3 decades since that has occurred before. But the hype for Vegas has already started. And having a race on a Saturday night with the lights of Vegas is only going to add to the ambiance that we'll see out of F1 that weekend. Well, the craziness of NASCAR season took another turn this weekend, as a fight took place and a NASCAR race broke out, as Ross Chastain and Noah Gragson were at one another yesterday after the race was over, with Ross banging wheels and kind of drove Gragson up into the fence. He took exception to that, but I got to tell you, Chastain has a heck of a hook. But NASCAR decided that they're not going to punish either one of them. So that was a heck of a deal in the pit area after the race was over. And speaking of banging wheels, Denny Hamlin used the bumper and moved Kyle Larson out of the way in the last corner after Larson had been leading for quite a while. Got him up into the fence, and the first win since the Coca-Cola 600 for Denny Hamlin on the Memorial Day a year ago. Well, there are 9 drivers who have won their first 12 races. Out of the first 12 races, 9 drivers have won, but there's 15 more races to go before the round of 16 for qualifying for the finals. And you've got 7 drivers that are to get another 7 drivers qualified out of those 16 races that are left. So it'll be interesting, as Busch, Larson, and Byron have already been in the winner's circle twice. Well, next week it's the track Too Tough to Tame. And after this weekend, I think Gragson and Chastain probably are too tough to tame. And maybe a few drivers as well should be called too tough to tame. But Darlington is a track that is called the Lady in Black for a lot of reasons. And if you've not ever kind of discovered what that's about, it's a great Google search. And I'd encourage you all to go take a look and see what happened, how the Lady in Black got its name. But it's a good story, so take a look. Well, the Indy Road Course wearers will set off this weekend and set off the month of May activities at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Scattered thunderstorms are in the forecast for Saturday, so it could be a little interesting on that road course with the water. A bumping course in the 500 has always had an aura about it, and we should have some fun at the track this year, as there are currently 34 entries already signed in but there are rumored to be 2 to 3 more that will come, which should put an interesting twist on the bumping. Well, Ricky Abreu continues his hot streak as he takes another World Outlaws win over at Tony Stewart's Eldora Speedway. But Brad Sweet used a fifth place finish to jump up into the leader's position, and he's a real threat to take his fifth consecutive World Outlaws championship. Carson Macedo on the move as well as he took the second spot in points. And tomorrow night, they begin a 3-night swing through Pennsylvania. And as you remember last week, Doug Dotson spent some time with us in the Race Saver sprints and knows full well who those Pennsylvania posse guys are, and should be a good weekend of racing for the World Outlaws in Pennsylvania. Buddy Kofoid and Parker Price Miller have both split from their respective teams, and even though they're both consistent top talent, Kofoid and Parker Price Miller both said that the split was over the direction of their teams. So it'll be interesting to see where they land, although Parker Price Miller has said that he may go back to stock car racing. I'd sure hate to lose him out of sprint cars for sure. So we'll keep tabs on that as we finish off the racing report this weekend. Well, tonight, two of my favorite people in the whole world, good friends, both of them, son and father. And I want to bring Paul and Paulie Bosnick in on tonight's show and thank them for being here. Appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
No problem, Ray.
You bet. Well, listen, tonight, how about, Paul, if you'd start off on your family, tell us a little bit about it, where you're living, your work interests, interest outside of racing.
Well, I'm retired, so I do a lot of work on the race boats, getting everything ready to go there. I have, I got Paulie and his family. And then Abby.
That's what I love about this
Tiff.
guy.
And there's Abby and Tiff and Quimby. Sorry, Ray.
No.
So
Nothing to be
my
sorry
family,
about.
like Paulie has his wife Katie, Race, Blair, and Annie Sue, and we're all close knit. We do a lot of things together and stuff. So that's how come I'm tore up like this. So I live here in Depue, Illinois. I've never moved away. I retired as a Boilermaker 40-some years ago now. I traveled all over the state of Illinois, Wisconsin, a little bit Indiana. So I work part-time for the village of Depue here, taking care of the parks and everything. But most of the time, if I'm not dealing with race boats, we hunt ducks, we hunt deer, and a lot of basketball and volleyball games to go see.
You sure got a good duck hunting place right in front, outside your front door, I think.
Yeah, it's fairly decent. We don't hunt here very much anymore. I belong to a club that is one of the best in the Illinois Valley area. And we have my brother Alan is a member there. And then Paulie and the kids come with me quite a few times down there. So it's pretty good to deal with down there.
Well, Paulie, tell us a little bit about your family and your interests and things outside of work.
Yeah, we live in Williamsfield, Illinois now. About an hour and 15 minutes southwest of Depue. Nice, quiet little town. 3 kids. Busy. That's the word to put it, because we're going every night with some type of sports or karate or baseball, soccer. The kids play. I think we spend our Saturdays at the Y. We're at the YMCA playing soccer. I think we play 3 or 4 games every Saturday there with the kids. Just going all over the place. It seems like every night you just don't get a break. And pretty much the kids are my interest. I don't get much time outside of that if I'm not if we're not working, we're pretty much running around with the kids somewhere. That's pretty much all we got going on.
Paulie, you work for Southwest Airlines, is that right?
I do. I actually work from home now. I started working from home in September. I work in our reservations department. Probably the best move I ever made. I don't necessarily love the position, but sitting in my basement every day that's unheard of. I don't know how anybody goes to work. It truly is unbelievable to be able to do that. And, the amount of time I get to spend with the family nowadays, you just didn't realize how much you missed going to work every day, or 3 or 4 days a week that I spent in Chicago. So it's huge. Definitely, I don't know if I'm a help or a burden on my wife every day, but I think she appreciates me being home most days.
Well, it had to be a real blessing when you started in September. You weren't going to be facing out on that ramp during the wintertime this year.
Yeah, I thought, this winter, my window's always open. Look outside. And it was probably one of the warmest winters we've had in the 14 years that I've worked in Chicago. I prayed for negative degree weather and freezing, blowing rain and snow, and just to laugh at the guys. And it was beautiful outside. That was the winter you really had to sit outside.
It was.
In the basement, but I definitely don't miss the days. A couple days ago, a buddy of mine had sent a Snapchat of him in the rain, and I hate rainy days, and I sent him one back. Like, I love rainy days, and I'm sitting in my office working nice and dry and warm. So it's definitely a nice change of pace, that's for sure.
I'll bet. Well, you guys have already started your racing season this year. You guys went down to Pineville, Louisiana, where Christy Aber had done yeoman's work to put that thing together. Unfortunately, you were blown out on Sunday, but you had some results out of that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, first and foremost, you got to thank Christy Aber. The amount of work that she put in to put that race on was unbelievable, and she continued her work on through Sunday night, and I'm sure it didn't end Sunday. So, it's thankful for her and, inviting us down there. Pineville is just it's just a beautiful place to go race. Great water usually. Unfortunately, the wind got the better of us. I got the win in 350 runabout. It's nice to start the year off with a win. It kind of hopefully sets the pace for the rest of the season. And, it kind of sucked because Race didn't get to race at all. So he got to go down there and be a flag boy and run around and, waited all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and didn't get to do anything. But, I think it made him hungrier to go race again because he's definitely chomping at the bit to get back in the boat. So hopefully he's able to get to Pleasant Prairie and put in some minutes.
Well, it's really interesting because, Pineville has got to be, 700 or 800 miles for you guys down there. And then to get blown out, it was tough to do. How does that affect you guys when you're on the road? Do you stay in motels? Are you camping? Do you have a motorhome? How does that work for you guys?
Yeah,
we had the motorhome.
Go ahead, Dad.
No, go ahead.
Dad and Elmer drove the motorhome down, and I think Tuesday they left, and then Race and I ended up flying in Friday night late. So we were in the motorhome. Sunday you're just looking to once it's called, you're just looking to get home now. We kind of plans change. Maybe you can get Race back to school. He doesn't miss any school. So that kind of changes that plan a little bit. It's tough on the season. It would have been nice to get some points and put some points in the bank, even if it wasn't a win down there. It kind of gives everybody that decided not to go in any class that they race a free pass, really, which I don't necessarily am a fan of. But, it is the way it is, and I want to beat them on the water too. So, I don't want that there to be at the end of the season that I won the High Point Championship because they didn't go to a race. So, you have that into it too.
Watching the stream with Kevin and Jackson down there, water is always known to be fast at Pineville. Did you notice an appreciation of that?
You know, it was I didn't get much time on the water, Saturday, I didn't get there till late Friday night. Saturday morning I tested a little bit and then got ready to race. I didn't have much time at all. I mean, it was pretty rough Saturday too. I mean, not unraceable rough, just rough. So it just wasn't a, fast water that you could get rolling on all the time. And I think the race course we had, it was a little bit shorter of a race course, which was fine. It was a nice, good race course, and you just weren't able to get wound out a lot. But yeah, I'm hoping we get to go back next year. Hopefully the weather is a little bit better, and you just get to experience a little bit better water.
Yeah, got a great pit area. Got pretty good facility down there. I remember the one year that I was down there. Go ahead.
My dad tried to put the motorhome in the water, so he got the motorhome closer to the water than the trailer was. Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful spot.
I remember a time down there when I hadn't realized there was an airport across the water. And all of a sudden, this plane goes right over our head. And I thought, what in the world? It's going into the drink. But fortunately, I looked up and saw that there was a runway over on the other side of the lake.
On Tuesday night, Ray, on Tuesday night, Elmer, Chris Floyd, and I drove in, and our GPS took us to the airport. We could see the lake, but we ended up with the GPS,
on the wrong side of it, huh?
On the wrong side, yeah.
Well, Paul and Paulie, you both have some material on. Paul, you've got a prop rider shirt. Paulie's got the prop rider hat on. Tell us about how that name came to be.
Well,
I'll start. Go ahead, Dad. I don't know the whole history.
Well, what happened was when Paulie started racing, I don't remember what we named our team at the time, but when Todd Brinkman was getting out of racing, he asked Paulie to drive. Well, we surprised Paulie with the 125 runabout ride. And Todd said, I'd like you to have Paulie drive this for me. Do we want to call and tell him about it? And I said, no, let him show up at the first race and see this boat in the trailer. And I said to him, well, if you're not going to be running, can we just take the prop rider name and go from there? And that's when, like 2004 or 2005, somewhere in there, when Todd got out of racing, we just acquired a name and been that way ever since, and stuff.
Paulie, anything to add?
No, that's pretty much it. I think I don't even know what year it was started by Don Nichols and Kay Harrison and Todd Brinkman, probably in the late 80s, 90s sometime. And we just, carrying on the tradition of, just an awesome people. Definitely, I don't know that we can live up to the standard that they held, but definitely try to live up to the tradition and the standards that they held when they were.
All them guys always were there to help us. No matter what, Don, Kay, Todd. So we just keep the name going.
Good. Well, tell us about the colors. How did the colors come about?
So, two things. First and foremost, most of the team is either born and raised in Depue, still live in Depue, from Depue, or have connections to Depue. Orange and blue is, I think if you tapped into our blood, we probably bleed orange and blue. And it just became our colors. Depue, we're grateful for the town and what they've been able to do for us and supported us over the years. Whether we're at Depue or we're on the road, we have people asking us all the time, how'd you do? How's the race? When's the next race? It's just a little bit of gesture back to the town and the thanks, especially to them for all they do. The second phase of that is I'm colorblind, and orange and blue are two colors that are contrasting a lot, and I can see it easily. I think Uncle Mitchell always told me, you have to have bright boats so I can pick you out on the race course. Well, kind of goes into the same thing. I can't pick a lot of colors out on the race course, but I can pick an orange or blue boat out. So I can always
Good.
see someone on the race course who's racing for us because of their color of the race. But I know without a shadow of a doubt when one of our team is on the race course.
There's a genealogy, if I could put it that way, of not only you guys carrying that color, but you also have some teammates that are carrying the color. Tell us about that.
Yeah, my cousin Jake started racing, I don't know, 2010 or 11 he started racing, and just kind of
11.
been a constant, person with us. I don't, me and him were close growing up, but he didn't really say much. And he came out to Hartford, Connecticut in 2010 and rode home with us, and he jumped in this motorhome. And Todd, I think when we were leaving Hartford, said to him, "Hey, when are you going to race?" And that was the spark he needed, and he just has been nonstop ever since. Has had good equipment, needs a little bit better equipment. Kind of like us all, probably needs to lose a couple pounds because we're all a little bit heavier than we need to be.
Speak
But
for
definitely
yourself.
been a constant, right? But definitely, one of the guys that I rely on a lot, especially living this far away. I text him and say, "Hey, can you get this done?" And it's done in the trailer. My nephew Ethan also races. He started, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago now, maybe a little bit more than that, 7, 8 years. He came to Constantine one year and asked if I had a boat for him. I'm like, I can get you one, but I don't now. And he's been racing ever since. Really, good driver. He's gotten hooked up a little bit with Dave Tenney and that group, and has helped him out a ton and their motor program out a lot. And he's definitely improved a ton with their help. So it's very thankful for that they have him. And it's nice too because I don't get to see him and my brother very often outside of the races. So it's nice to that we get that time together. And it's been a bonding period for us. Maybe at each other's throat a little bit some days, but it's been nice to see him more often than I did and get to share that experience with him. And then on the last phase, my son Ray started racing this year, who flies the colors also. He wasn't real happy about the colors. They aren't his favorite colors. So I made a deal with him. I hate flames on boats, but I made a deal with him that he can have flames as long as his boats are orange and blue. So he got his flames. We got orange and blue. That was the deal we had to make. So,
Well,
that's how.
it was interesting when we were up at Pleasant Prairie for our year-end meeting. I came around the corner in the parking lot, and here's a trailer with about 5 or 6 boats on it, and one over the top of a pickup truck. And I thought, what in the world is going on there? Tell us about how those flames came about.
Jersey's he's just a great kid, a great guy, someone that just loves boat racing and, just wants, stuff to go good. He had posted that he wanted to start painting boats, and Paul Torrey has been our painter for years. And I called him up and I said, "Hey, you got first option. It's your decision. If you don't want to paint them, we're going to go to Jersey." And it's a lot of work to get a boat painted, whether it's, especially with as busy as we are, it's a couple weekends or 4 or 5 weekends and sanding and painting and everything else. It just came, I talked to Jersey, and Jersey was all for it. So we sent him up there. Race was a little bit more harder on Jersey than I was because I didn't care. I just wanted the colors and have fun with it. And he knocked them all out of the park for sure. So we got one more going there this winter, and I'm sure he'll do just as great a job on it as he's done the other 3.
Yeah, Jersey Holman has been doing a lot of the boats. I saw one of the boats that went out west. Holy buckets. You talk about a paint job. That thing was, I can't imagine the amount of time of laying up the tape just to be able to get the colors right. And
right.
Jersey gets a shout out.
Yeah, he would just go crazy about them too some days, and he'd text me questions or just like I'm sure he probably lost a ton of sleep, which he didn't need to. We're truly appreciative of the work that him and his wife, or I guess girlfriend, do, and just all the
Melanie,
work that they put into it. It's truly painting is definitely a act of service for sure.
yeah,
But
he's
we're
quite an
thankful that
artist,
he did.
that's for sure. Quite an
Yes.
artist.
Ray,
You-
when
Go
we
ahead.
had when we were painting them, we were fortunate that we had a body shop over in Granville, and Jody Taliani, he opened the doors to us. He'd say, "You can come in at 4 o'clock on Friday and stay till midnight Sunday, but you got to have everything out when you leave because you can come back next week." And he'd stayed in there a couple, 3 times with us and helped us tape and prime, and him and Paul Torrey did an excellent job working on the boats. He even called we did something, I don't remember what we ran out of, and he called the A&B, it's a body shop or paint shop here in the area. He called them from at home, and they went and got the stuff for us in the middle of a Saturday afternoon or Sunday morning. So that's
Unbelievable.
we're fortunate there. So
That's the beauty of being in small towns. I love
exactly.
that part of it. Everybody knows everybody. Well, it's kind of interesting. The paint, the work that you're doing right now, though, is kind of important, and that's the ability to get a boat to the boat race. Tell us about this new trailer you guys are doing.
Well,
Yeah. Go ahead.
it's we're fortunate that we got Uncle Mitch to help us do a lot of the welding and fabricating of this. The trailer just come empty, and we've had to put new racks in it. We actually got the racks in for the 2 runabouts, and then Mitch is a pipe fitter by trade, so he has to go back to work tomorrow. So I don't know how much farther we're going to have him for a couple days. And excuse me, but the 2 boats are in, but they're still. We have nothing else ready here. We've had everything in a shed up in Lamoille, Illinois, at Deb Brokaw's house, and it's like an Easter egg hunt. We got to go up there and find something because it's just all over the shed now. And it. But the trailer actually is orange and blue also. So so it looks nice. So.
Well, Paulie, we've been talking a little bit about race. Let's visit a little bit more there. A few years ago, he was too young to be in boat racing, so you got him into some other racing. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we've raced go-karts for the last 3 years. Kind of a roller coaster of a of a career, I guess you'd say. It's tough because you go from the new guy, and then you get to be I guess the older of the group in the class, and then you age out of the class, and bam, you're right back to the new guy. And he kind of, there's a big age group, where he was, and he doesn't sit in the cart enough. And we probably raced every weekend that we could, or every couple weekends. And to contend with a lot of the big guys that race all the time, that's just not enough. They're either in the simulator during the week, they're at the track during the week. A lot of them are at the races, every weekend at the very least. We were very fortunate to have the people that we have behind us. You hear it a lot, but the Brinkman family, Tim Brinkman, I don't know how many times I texted him, called him, and he answered my question, probably laughing at me, calling me, some choice words, but he was always there to help. We had some good friends, Jeff Harder and Sean Coate, that have been, constants in our career there. Who, Jeff, I showed up at a race up there and the motor broke in Wisconsin, and I never met the guy before, and I was his wife actually said, go to our trailer. So I went over there with the motor and parts and said, can you fix this? And he's wrenching on 4 go-karts and fixed it right away, and we've been best friends ever since. And it's just a different ball of wax, truly. I mean, we raced all asphalt. And with boats, you go to the race course, no matter where you are in the country. Most of the time, you put the same prop on. You have the same setup. You don't change it. Same lower unit, same everything. And you go race. You don't have to change. Almost never are you changing something. You can race at the track every week, every day of the week, and it's completely different tomorrow. And then all of a sudden it rains, and watch out because it's completely different. So it's just a lot to learn, a roller coaster of events throughout the day, trying to keep up with the track, trying to keep up with everything that's going on, making sure, then you got to keep a 7 or 8-year-old interested too, and it's tough. He didn't see the gains that we made going from, a back marker, mid pack person to, being closer to the front, or, in times where we, he didn't essentially celebrate the little things, A couple races we went to and we qualified in the top 15 or 20, and that was a win. That's where that was a win, truly. And he's seen that as a loss, and we tried celebrating, and it's tough. It's tough when you're not in the lead pack, truly. So that was hard.
And
too, that we
Go ahead,
ran
Paul.
with too, the Amos family, that just helped us out a ton and built Race's confidence up a bunch. But it's just tough.
And also the last year or so, he was running against Kevin Harvick's son, Jamie McMurray's son, and I think there was a couple IndyCar drivers' sons that were there too. So, it's tough. These guys, them guys, like Paulie said, they live and die racing karts, and they probably don't go to school. They're always working somewhere on something. So, yeah, it was tough on him. But he, and like we were in Daytona, and we were in the motorhome, and we're all sitting around having a few drinks and stuff. And he said, I'm going to go out and play football. So he's out there playing football, and he comes back and says, they said, who are you playing with? He said, well, the kids at that time didn't know each other's name. He said, cart number 62 and 46. Well, that was Keelan Harvick and whatever Jamie McMurray's son. He's out there playing with these guys. And, you don't have any idea who they are, but you just think they're, so yeah, so.
Well, you guys in the go-karts, I mean, it was amazing because you just talked about Daytona, but you were over in the Carolinas, you were in Wisconsin. How many different tracks would you have run? Do you remember?
I bet you we were at probably a total of 10 to 15 maybe different tracks throughout the 3 or 4 years that we raced. Yeah, so we were definitely all over the place racing and trying to get different races in, and just to give him the experience, to be able to compete. But yeah, it was definitely neat. He didn't realize, like Dad said, he had no idea who. They're just the kids playing around and racing, or playing football, or he didn't realize that he was standing in the garage at Charlotte Motor Speedway where Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., the greats of the sport once walked, or he didn't realize any of that.
Right.
But one day he'll look back on that and be like, oh, I got to race there, and he has. We watch NASCAR on TV or whatever, and he sees it and he's like, Dad, I was racing there. Yeah.
It's interesting about what you said about he didn't recognize that he was really progressing as he went from the back marker up into the, qualifying well and getting some good finishes. And I think about some of the F1 guys. I mean, right now it's either Hamilton or Russell or Verstappen or Perez. Maybe once in a while Leclerc will get in. But you think about all those other guys, they get an 8th or 9th position and they think they've won the world. I mean, it's just,
Right.
It's hard to fathom that. So I can certainly understand where Race was at about, maybe he didn't win, but he still had a win.
Correct. And that's what we tried driving home to him. You kind of kept yourself in a, okay, these are the people that you've been racing with the last couple of years, and this is your group, right? Like, let's beat or be at the top of this group because that's where we need to be. That's where we should be because them are our age. That's our group, right? And if we can get better than that, then okay, then we've won. But let's at least be here or better. And it's tough to get in a kid's head when, there's 45 carts barreling down on you and you got to race against 45 carts. And yeah, it was a rough it was a rough season for sure last year. Tore up some go-karts, tore up some friends' go-karts. It was definitely a tough season. being the young one of the group. They're 8 to 12 years old, and that's a big range of kids. The 12-year-olds, that's
for
junior
sure.
high you're talking.
Yeah.
And that's a maturity level that's huge difference. So it was tough, definitely, for sure. He learned a lot, but it was definitely tough.
Well, riddle me this. How big was his head after Jessup, Georgia?
Oh, yeah, he he was definitely nervous. I'll say that for sure. Going. I don't think Saturday morning he ate anything. I think if he would have ate, he would have threw up. And he was just nervous, And I said to him a couple times, I said, "Pal, this is what you want. This is nervous. That's what you want. You want to be nervous. This is racing." And I said, "What are you going to do when you get to Depue? Because Depue's a whole nother ball of wax. That's a whole nother ball game." But yeah, he definitely had some good luck. It was neat to see him out there. You can tell a difference, coming from a kid who's been racing for years to, someone that was just fresh. And you never know. You never know. Okay, does he watch the races at the race? Does he pay attention when he's there? Is he picking up on it? Are you. And he definitely, you could tell that he had a clue of what was going on. We had a little scare in testing, and you know how it is. You go over everything you can go over. One thing I didn't go over was what to do with other boats on the race course. Well, we've never tested with another boat. And a kid was getting on plane coming, and he went into the first turn, a little hit her a little bit, didn't do much damage to our boat. Yeah, a little scary. He was nervous. He didn't want to get back in the boat, but he got over that and had a great run on Saturday. Great race put on, Howie Nichols and Becky Nichols and that clan. Heck of a job putting on the race, and Jessup's just a beautiful place. I love going down there to race.
Well, he came away with a win down there. And did you
Yes, he did.
give him the famous boat racing baptism?
We did, yes, sir. Yeah, it was pretty neat. He was not expecting it, that's for sure. Because we waited for later in the day to give it to him when the races were all over. So it was neat. It was definitely, and it prolonged. We were planning on getting out of there Saturday night, and he had talked to, he calls my wife KK, and he goes, "Dad, I gotta wait to get my medals tomorrow morning." I said, "Well, you better go talk to KK." He went up and sweet talked her into keeping us there another night a little bit longer because we were gonna leave and try and get home. And so, needless to say, we got home at about 4 or 5 in the morning on Monday morning, and KK and him and everybody else had to get up for school and work and stuff. So, yeah, they were a little tired Monday morning.
I'll bet.
He didn't tell KK the whole story though. He told her that he was going to get his award at 9:00, and she thought he meant Saturday night at 9:00 that we could head out.
Oh,
well, then she come down to the trailer and she's seen all of us having a Bud Light and stuff. She said, "Well, I don't think we're leaving tonight, are we?" He goes, "No." He goes, "Then race." Well, he told me 9:00, and I thought it was 9:00 tonight, and stuff. Then he come back. He come back, and Paulie said something to him, and he just smiled and went on about his business, and stuff. But yeah,
well, he's learning the tricks already. Then
yes, he is.
Well, he's going to be running what's called the K runabout and K hydro. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Tell us what does that K stand for? What does it mean? What kind of boats are you running engine wise?
The K stands for Kid Pro Runabout or Hydro. K Pro Runabout, we just started a couple years ago. It's kind of tough to get it off the ground a little bit in the title series. Race is actually probably the reason why we started it. We were at a race, and he doesn't know nothing else than runabouts, really. Daddy runs runabouts. Why? I don't want to race hydros. He could care less about driving this hydro. And he said to me one day, he goes, "Dad, why isn't there K Pro Runabout?" And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Why isn't there K Pro Runabout? So we're trying to get that rolling. I know out west it runs pretty good. They have a lot of kids out west that run it. So hopefully we can get that rolling in the title series. It's a I don't know, 8 or 9 foot runabout with a 15 horsepower Mercury or Johnson. Since race is only 9, he has a restrictor plate in the carburetor that slows him down. He'll run about 40 miles an hour or so. The unrestricted kids are probably pushing right at 55, 54, 53 miles an hour, somewhere in that range. They have a height restriction, no weight limits, but a height restriction that the motor can't go up too far. The hydro is another 9 foot, 8, 9 foot hydro. And it gives these kids it's quick, 40, 50 miles an hour for a 9, 10-year-old kid is quick. They're moving on the water.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work to do. The little runabouts are underpowered, so you got to work them a little bit to get them down the race course. So it's good. It's definitely a good class. Hopefully it gets taken off in the series, and we can progress it along.
If I remember right, that runabout has a great story, doesn't it? On how it got built so quick.
Yeah, and Jerry Davids is just an awesome guy. He's been a great friend of ours for years. I think he adopted Nick Thompson back in the day, and kind of then he was adopting all of us, and here we all come along with the clan. And I had called Jerry about building the boat. And I think there was a little bit of miscommunication between him and I, because I wanted a boat to try and help the class off. And he showed up at, I think it was New York with this boat. And I'm like, yep. I wasn't even expecting it, and he showed up with this, and I said, well, you're going to give it to race. So at Depue, the Nationals, we hid it from him for about a month and a half. And then at Depue, Jerry come around the corner with it, and he Race's eyes just lit up, and that's he's been in love with it ever since. I'm really indebted to Jerry and Joyce, and they just two great people. They're boat racing it, if there is ever is a family of boat racers.
At Depue, when Jerry brought the boat around the trailer, he goes, Race, come here. I want to show you something. So Race come over there, and he got in the boat, and he goes, how do you like this? And Race said, that's pretty nice, Jerry. He said, well, good, because it's yours. And Race didn't know what to say to him, and the whole families are there, and stuff. So when he did that, it was pretty neat, So he went testing on Lake. Yeah, he went testing on Lake Depue, and there must have been 10, 15 people there watching him test. On Labor Day weekend, I think it was, we put him out there, and he just had a ball. So
that's great. That's good stuff. Well, we look forward to seeing him on the water at Depue this year for sure. Well, Paul, you've been involved with the title series for a long, long time, and you have a lot of responsibility, if I could say it that way, for the weekend. And then there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes when we're not on the water. Tell us a little bit about your involvement with the title series.
Well, let's see. How do I say this? I have to blame Mr. Brinkman Todd for getting me involved in this, because him and I were friends, and he asked me one time to go to a race, and I said, sure. So it's been like 1978, 79 that I started going with him as a pit crew member. And as we formed the title series, I got more and more involved with everything, helping to set the race courses, working on the judges' stand, being a referee, being a flagman, shooting a gun, run the clock, and basically anything they needed, I did. And if I wasn't a pitting for everybody, and so as time went on, I learned and listened on how to run the races. And then when Todd got out of it, he said, "Okay, buddy, it's all yours." So I've been the race director now for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's a big responsibility. Plus, being on the title series board, you got to listen to everybody complain about something, and then dealing with the sponsors every once in a while. And like here at Depue, I'm kind of like the middleman between the men's club and the title series. Basically a lot of things go through me, and then I pawn them off to our president, Pete Nidall. Now it used to be Todd, but now Pete's got the headaches sometimes. And it's a lot of responsibility. But some days at home, I just finished a race schedule for the Nationals here this week, and sent it off to a couple people, and they like it also. It's going to go to print here in a couple days, and it's just something to keep you busy and active, I guess you want to say. Besides what I got to do with our own team. So
keeps your mind going for sure.
Yes, it does. I said to a guy today, he come to my house and he hadn't been feeling good, and I said, "How you been feeling?" He says, "Oh, bad." He says, the doctor gave him a Zantac to go to sleep, and he said, "I finally slept 6 hours last night." And I said, "Man, I should take that." And he goes, "Why?" I said, "Well, it's May, and I don't sleep much during the month of May, June, July, and August because I'm always thinking about everything at the racing end of it." And he goes, "Well, try one of them tonight." I said, "No, I'll pass."
Yeah. I put it. My wife gets mad at me when I say it, but it's like a fart in a windstorm. Sometimes you really you're everywhere, and you have to be.
Yeah,
And that's
I
a
mean,
good thing.
like I say, at Depue, I've kind of for the Nationals this year. There was like 14 jobs, different jobs that done before the Nationals hit that John Woodmer and I used to take care of. And after the big race last year, we got together and said, we're getting too old to do this stuff. These young guys got to step up. So
Yep.
we turned it over at a meeting, and them guys kind of looked at us like, "Oh,
Now what?
you guys really did this stuff?" Yeah, they had no idea. They just showed up at the park on Saturday morning and set the park up and showed up the following week and tore it down. They didn't know all this other stuff took place. So, now they have to do it, So,
And things pop up during the week while you're trying to do other things, and
right,
you got to be you got to be Mr. Everywhere, man.
right.
Well, Paulie, you've had a lot of success at home at Depue. Tell us about your championships.
Yeah, I think we've won 5 championships. It's been, I don't know, 6 or 7 years now, maybe 8 years since we won our last one. It would definitely be nice to get a monkey off our back to get another one. It seems like we haven't had any problems in the last 7 or 8 years going into it. Yeah, I think we won two. Well, we won one in 2007 and 125 runabout. Probably should have won it in 2006. I think I lost by 4 or 5 points. But
Yep, to Brian Kerr.
2007
Brian Payne, I'm sorry.
was pretty sweet. Getting that first one, being at home, just awesome. I don't think that there's any better feeling than coming across the line at Depue and seeing everybody go nuts. I won 250 runabout in 2010, which was pretty sweet. That 250 runabout's kind of my dream class to race. It's always been my dream class to race. I watched Uncle Mitch race it for years and years and years. Just a dream class. And I think in 12 or 13, I won again in 125 runabout. And then I think 13, I think in the final, I had to beat Mike Creer going into the final. And I got a terrible start. It was bad. It was bad. I knew going down the backstretch after that start that I had two choices. I could either A, drive my butt off and catch them, or I might as well just go to the mouth of the lake and just keep on driving because I wasn't coming in the pits, that's for sure. And I chased and chased and chased and chased and chased. And I got up alongside him going into the last corner, and I was just right on his hip. And that corner is always nasty. And I could hear him, I was just right at the pipes, and I could hear him burp the throttle just a little bit. And I wasn't backing off. And I knew that what I had to do. And I don't think he had any clue that I was even there, really. And I don't know how much I beat him by, but it wasn't much. And I think I won the championship by, I don't know, 10 or 11 points. That one was probably my sweetest one, just because it was just the chase, really. I had to drive my butt off to get there after making a bad start. And we probably shouldn't have even had a chance to win the way we were running all season long that year. But we were there, and we had a great opportunity at the end of the day.
It's funny, Paulie, because I had some notes that I was going to talk about that because I remember that race. And the reason I remember that is, dear Abby, as you were going down the backstretch and catching Mike. She was just up and down, up and down, up and down, right in front of the PA booth. And when you got around him, she was the mad scientist with the pad going points,
Right.
points, points, and figured out that you, in fact, did win that one.
She always has a clue of what the points are, and she's adding them up throughout the day or whatever it is. And if we have a chance going to the final, I have a pretty good idea of where I need to be and what I need to do to be able to secure, if I have to win a championship. It's pretty,
Sure.
She not all the time do I get to have that opportunity or am I there, but she definitely has always been there to keep everything rolling for us. Not only in the
Good.
points, but everything else. So it's pretty
Yep.
awesome. We're thankful that
She does a great job. My grandson just came through the door. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Everybody's saying happy birthday to you.
Ray,
turn 12
Ray, you're talking about that heat, a racing where Paulie come up for the bad start. Todd's standing next to me, and he said, that boy better win this heat. If he don't, he, like Paulie said, he just might head west because he ain't coming back into this pit. Just go right out to the Illinois River and keep going, It's, and Paulie come up for the start. Everybody was at start-finish line, and Paulie was like in Spring Valley, and 5 miles away. But he didn't want to jump, and he did, but he took his tail off, So, and that, our pit crew was the main focus for us to get them a win,
Let's visit about that, guys. You're not the lone man in the garden. You can't go boat racing without help. Tell us about the crew that you guys have, which is just outstanding to watch, as each of you have a specific job, or you're running parts, you're running pieces, you're in the water. Tell us about that.
It's I'm definitely lucky, truly, and I don't think a lot of people in our sport get that, where they have a crew that travels with them. Every race I go to, I have at least one or two guys that are dedicated crew members of mine who have a clue of what's going on. Usually, we have 3 or 4 different guys that are there. Stan Harmon and Matt Harmon, they've been constants in my life. Stan doesn't know a whole lot, but he has a couple. He's the propane and the fuel guy, and if Stan's there, I'm not running out of fuel and I'm not running out of propane. It's just no questions asked. You know what's going to get done. You don't have to question it.
Yep.
Elmer's everywhere. Elmer does it all. He's there almost every race, just working his butt off. Just does it all for us. Tori, same thing when he's available to get there. Just does it all. Whatever needs to be done, whether we're changing cylinders, we're changing pistons, we're changing. It's nice because I can hand stuff to them, or they know. The boat comes in off the race course, and there's a check that we go through. Everybody knows their checks that they have to do, what's going on, and I can relax and look over data and see what we need to do to get faster for the next heat, and not have to worry about wrenching on a boat or putting fuel in the boat or changing shear pins out or whatever. We have people that do that. Brad Saylor, my father-in-law, is there almost every race too, helping us, or and involved whatever we need to do. And especially on our longer haul races where we don't have a full complement of crew guys that come with us, he's definitely there. And not only are these guys helping me, they're helping everybody in our race trailer. There's been a couple nights where Matt has sat down in the motorhome at night and he's like, I'm wore out, and I'm like, yeah, you need to stop helping people. It's take a break every once in a while, but definitely would not be where I am without them guys. And it just doesn't stop there. My dad and my Uncle Mitch have been there forever, for years for me. They've been putting on hours working on the racing trailer, and I'm at a soccer game or working on putting a party together, and I'm at work, working at home, or, living an hour and a half away isn't the most ideal situation for all of us. But thanks to a lot of them guys, the boats are ready to go to the race. The trailer's ready to go to the race. It's loaded, have all the parts and tools and motors and everything that we need, and off we go. Jake Huffert the same way. He's been sitting at the house helping and doing everything he can to get us ready to go. Again, it's just we're a team. We're a family. When we win as a team. When we lose, well, we probably lose as a team, or it's probably my fault. But it's definitely an awesome feeling getting a win and seeing the joy and excitement on all of our faces because we did it together. It wasn't just me. It just wasn't them, or it was all of us.
And
Sure.
Ray, we also had
Yep, go ahead.
like you said earlier, Kay Harrison, Don Nichols, Bill and Eileen Steinwick, Todd and Tom Brinkman. Without all them guys too. Don was when something broke on the motor, you just picked it up and said, "Here you go, Uncle Don, bye," and he'd be rebuilding it for you, and you didn't have to worry about it and stuff. So, yeah, without them guys, you're SOL. Tim Small was always there to help.
Yeah. If my memory is right, Paulie, you're not the only Bosniak that's won a championship at Depue. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. Uncle Mitch won one in 1991, I believe. I was only 4. He won in 250 runabout. Yeah, he won it in 91. It's been a kind of a long-standing joke that he only won it once. I don't bring it up too often.
Grateful that he did.
Definitely grateful that he got that championship. I wish he probably had I vividly remember him having a chance to win a couple more. I know one. I think he pulled the kill switch one heat with his knee, and he won 2 heats. I remember. Yeah, he definitely had his fair share of accidents and swimming events, and but thankful he had the opportunities and the success that he did for sure.
It's interesting, and a shout out to Dale Hoffert for what the work he did last year and gathering up pictures and names of all the drivers that have come from Depue or through Depue with connections to it. And it was just really fun to be able to look at some of the pictures and kind of get a remembrance of some years that have passed in boat racing. And I know Rod Walk won. I think his was up at Winona. And I'm sure there's probably one I've missed somewhere along the way.
Tony,
it's really.
I think Tony won one or two.
Tony won one as well. Yeah. So it's just kind of an interesting thing when you think about Depue, a little town of 1,200 people, something like that, and have as many guys that raced from Depue as have. And I can remember as a kid. I'm a little bit older than you guys, but I can remember when the Maypoles were running and Joe Michelini and some of those guys back in the early 50s that were at Depue. And then as things progressed and the Lake Depue Preservation Association got involved in the national, and that has been something that I don't think there's another place that has had as many nationals on the water as what Depue has. Well, Paul, you're not only involved in title series, but there's a lot of effort that's being made with the men's club, of which you indicated earlier that you're on the board of directors. But there's been a change in the leadership at the men's club. Let's visit about that.
Yes, there has. Slick Solario, Steve, and John Woodmar, the treasurer, Eric Bryant, vice president, and David Marquez and Steve Rao were officers of the club. They all got out. They said they were done, and we have a new group of people to deal running our club now. We've got Trent Solario, which is Slick's son, Trey Solario. I envy, and I shouldn't say. I don't know how to say. I pity Trey because he's going to have to follow in John Woodmer's footsteps as a treasurer. Because, like I said before, if Woodmer was a good-looking woman, she'd be one you want to marry because you'd always have money in your checkbook. and it's a fight. And even to this day, he fights with me about trying to spend some money. But Trey's going to do that now, and his brother Drew took over as our secretary, and it's just going to be a changing of the guards. And a few things that we've done the last couple of weeks since they've taken over is they want to have more like Zoom meetings before once a month to just ask discussion questions about how everything's going. And so it's going to be a tough week or two, especially Depue. John was explaining some stuff to Trey last Sunday and on how he did it for the races and what you have to do for each committee and deposits and all this. And Trey was just looking at him like, why can't I? He said, no, you can't have one lump sum deposit because your books will be, oh, okay. So,
You won't be able
it's
to
going to
track
be
it, sure.
right. It's these young kids. I mean, when I say young, they're 35, 36. So, they're Paulie's age or a little bit older. So, that's 35 years old or 36. So it's, they're still young kids. So they got to, like John and Slick been in the club as officers for 40 years now. This has been the 41st year of being in there. So, it's just, it's going to be interesting, but I think we'll survive.
I think so, and it'll be interesting too because I think if I could put it this way, some fresh blood, some different ideas that'll come, and the ability to help people in the Illinois Valley. I don't think that's going to miss a beat as you guys get ready to roll through that system.
No, it's not going to miss it. I mean, we'll still be able to help the area communities with different things. When you said fresh and young blood, for example, last year in our food stand, for years we struggled to get people to work in there. And last year, Grant, my nephew, put out on Facebook, we need help in the food stand if you want to go on the boat races. And first time in years, 20 years probably, the shifts were all full of people coming and volunteering, and they all showed up. Abby is coaching at St. Bede, the volleyball team, and 18 girls come and worked I don't know how many endless shifts, and they got their service hours they have after school all that week, and that helped out tremendously. The Pew schools had kids down there, so I mean it's there. That internet and Facebook and all this stuff that we do anymore, which, I mean, believe me, I'm not the smartest knife in the drawer on this stuff. I'll be, but it's all helped a lot with everything. So we'll see.
Social media does have some ability to really get yourself out there. Well, guys, what haven't we talked about that you want to get on the air tonight?
And truly, for me on my side, just thanks to all the people that have been behind me for years. My family, my team. Dad mentioned it, Bill and Eileen Van Steenwyk, Todd Brinkman. Steve Litzel was involved for a while. Tim Brinkman, Tom Brinkman. My mom, my dad. My mom probably hates me racing, but she's there every weekend supporting me. And same. My Uncle Al, who doesn't go to the races besides the Pew, but better believe he's the first one to call and make sure everything's all right, making sure I'm alive, what have you. So, my wife, my kids, it's, last couple years, this year's kind of a year off, with us not racing a lot, so we're doing a little bit more vacationing. But, last couple years we raced almost every weekend, and, Katie get the motorhome ready to go. She'd unpack the clothes, pack the motorhome. I mean, she's been wrangling 3 kids or 2 kids up there, getting them ready for bed now, and I'm down here having fun. So definitely, any of us racers, we can't do this without the people that are around us. It takes a special person to be behind us to be able to do what we do and have fun. And, at the races, I don't envy Katie at all at the races, chasing around 3 kids, trying to keep them under control, fed, sleeping, naps, happy. And then, and she does it with a smile on her face, and doesn't complain ever. So truly, thankful for what I have and thankful for them. And just thankful for what we've had. We've definitely been very lucky and had a lot of success. And my guys and my
hard work
team and
when it's successful.
for sure, my uncle Mitch, Todd Brinkman, they do a lot of hard work, and it shows when we get to the race course that we're ready to race.
Yeah, you bet. How about you, Paul? Anything that you before we
Paulie hit it. Everything that I would say. Ray, you've been on our side all the time, so it's tough to do what we do. We travel the countryside. When I left for Jessup, Georgia, I was all by myself, and I texted you and I said, excuse me, I went from Paulie's hauler driver to Race's hauler driver now because we hauled his equipment all the way down there. And I said that to a person that I was a hauler driver, and he goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, a friend of mine in Princeton." I said, "Yeah, I'm the hauler driver. NASCAR guys. I get in the semi and haul everything to the race site and set it up, and then my drivers fly in, like Dale Jr. does, and my one of the guys says, "Oh, can you for hire?" I said, "No, I travel enough. I don't need So no, and especially like when I leave Depue to go to a race. Not so much now. Pat Montez has been sick, so I don't see him as much. But as soon as that trailer door would open up, no matter if we're getting ready for a race or just even doing something in the trailer, Pat would go by and talk and say, "All right, where are you going next? All right," and then the trailer, he'd sense me pulling out of town. And when I'd leave, he'd be there tooting the horn, waving at me. And then I wouldn't be home, Monday morning, I'd get up 7, 8 o'clock, and he was like a duck circling looking for feed. He just kept riding the block until I come out and said hello to him. And he'd ask me how Doug, first he didn't ever ask me how Paulie did or anybody else like that. He's a big Doug Hall fan. And we'd tell him, I'd say, "Okay, Doug did this, and Jackson did that." Okay, and then he'd start the driveway. "Oh, by the way, what did Paulie do?" So it was, and Elmer would always torment Pat. He'd tell him, "Oh, Doug lost by, Jake outlapped him or somebody lapped him and stuff." Come on, I said, "You're gonna give the poor guy a heart attack. Don't do that." But it's a great sport to deal with, and the boat racing family is a little, the kart family was nice, but at the end of the night, if you wanted to walk down the pits of the boat race, you could always find a cooler to have a beer out of. The kart racing, you never could find that. They're always closed doors, and they're load up and go back to the motel or whatever. 90% of the people that boat race stay there in the motorhome, so it's always nice, and stuff. So, like I said, our crew, our pit crew, that's the key. So they're like I said, like Paulie said, they're here at my house Saturday morning from about 9 until 5, and Sunday. If we need help, they're here to help. So can't complain, and I really enjoy it. So.
Well, great. Well, guys, thank you so much for being with me tonight. Been a great show. A lot of good information, a lot of good ideas, and certainly a lot of thanks to the folks that have helped to put boat racing on the map for us. And the folks at Depue, our fans down there, you can't find any better and any more well-informed than those folks are down there. So, again, Paulie and Paul, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Ray.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks for everything you do.
You bet. You betcha. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Well, thank you.
Well, that was a good one.
Yeah, they've
A
got
lot of good information.
Yeah, just super people. Well, I want to just again shout out to our sponsor, PowerMist Fuels and Additives with Rick and Steve Vail. And thanks for all the work that they do to help us put this together. I did see, Rick, your boat looks like it's getting ready to go on the runabout. Some work on the boat with changing the chine and couple other things that they're doing for a big run out, getting back on the water again. So good to see that. But again, if you need a fuel, again, the folks at PowerMist.com, get over there, take a look at what they are offering in their standard product. But again, if you need a fuel that's blended to your recipe, they can certainly do that for you in the water or on the drag strip or in the dirt for sprint cars.
Absolutely.
So again,
They
thanks
sponsor a lot of great race teams out there, which hopefully we'll see some this weekend on the inboard side.
Yeah, it was fun, Kevin, to see what they've done with the Toyota group.
Oh,
I saw
that was
a
awesome.
picture. I mean, it was probably 10 or 12 barrels of fuel going up to, I think it was Road America for them.
Yep.
And so that was awesome to see.
Then you had Danny Dave come in with his dyno, did a lot of work with them, and they're just tearing it up in the enduro motorcycle stuff right now too.
Yeah.
And hopefully
really
soon we'll have
watch.
some fuel for the remote control guys, which I just did last weekend.
I remember that they were asking about fuel. Speaking of fuel, we've got that $29.99 special again running, Kevin, and it's go to boatracing.tkdssports.com and run the test lap with us for 3 months. You get it $29.99. And if you think about this, that means that from the middle of May to June to the middle of July to the middle of August, that is going to get you the nationals at Depue, the inboards, and all the rest that goes with it. But again, remember that we archive all of our races. So you're going to be able to go back. We talked about Pineville. That'll be up pretty soon. And people will be able to go and watch the Pineville race on Friday and Saturday, and some good racing there. So $29.99, boatracing.tkdssports.com.
Yeah, we're still working on all the individual races from Pineville. I think the long day race is up there, but all the individual races we're still working on because some people got sick, weather was bad, and just my editors are slammed with all that, and it's that busy time of year. So.
Oh yeah, no question about that. But again, we archived back, I think, almost 3 years. Is that right, Kevin?
3 to 4 years, you'll see. I think we found our lost boat, our lost races in Springfield, and our driver interviews in the pits from Springfield back 4 years ago. We're even up there now.
Oh my goodness.
At least on our YouTube, fantastic. I know they're there.
Well, fans, next week we've got John Ruff coming up with us, and we're going to talk about, and we kind of visited a little bit about it tonight, about the support levels that it takes to be in boat racing. And I've asked John to come on board because he really is a support person for What's Up Doc racing team, but he's involved from not only driving their motor coach to being the chef while they're there for the weekend, going back and forth, picking up boats up north of me for damage that's been done to boats or brand new boats. He comes all the way out of Oklahoma up here into northern Indiana to be able to pick up boats. So we'll have a good time next week with John Ruff. Looking forward to that. With that, Kevin, I'm going to sign off. I've got a son whose birthday is here, and so I'm going to get a chance to visit.
Well, there you go. So you have a great birthday, Ray. Good job, and I'll talk to you next week.
All right, buddy. You take care of yourself.
Yep. All right, folks, that's our show for tonight. Good stuff happening. We'll talk to you later from the PowerMist Power Hour.